Look, I want to hear that he's saying good things because I care about the state. There's people out there that hate Donald Trump so much. They're hoping that he's in the Epstein files. They're hoping that he abused a young girl. I have 5 daughters. I have a wife that I love. I have granddaughters. I can't think that way. I don't want to hear that anybody abused a young girl. But this is the level that it's gotten to. When I hear a guy like Newsom, he's up there. He has nothing positive to offer. It's all Trump, 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 Trump. Everything that he says is a lie.
That's what bothers me.
He's on video and he's lying constantly.
Liars and thieves. For me, liars and thieves. And it's like he's both. The ability to lie about everything, psychologically, you're a danger to society. And I feel that every time I listen to Newsom talk.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Sit Down with Michael Franzese. Hope everybody is doing well. All is very good, very blessed on this end, my friends. And always, I give all the praise, honor, glory, and thanksgiving to our God for that. We have a new governor's race coming up very soon. Praise God for that here in California. Governor Newsom will be gone. Got to get rid of this guy. We just got to pray that his aspirations, his obsession with becoming president doesn't ever happen, because he will destroy America like he destroyed California. This is such a beautiful state, a beautiful state. If we ever get the politics and the economics right, great place to live. One of the best, beautiful in every aspect. The weather, best in the world in Southern California, trust me. So here I have a very special guest today. He is the current sheriff of Orange County, Chad Bianco. Great guy. Had the pleasure of meeting with him. You know, it's funny, we're interviewing him today, but the day before, unbeknownst to me, he appeared at our church and he spoke to our pastor, Greg Laurie, and he was just wonderful. We got a real good look at his background, his family life. Very, very decent man, great law and order guy. We have one of the safest counties in the country, without a doubt, here in Orange County. He's done a great job and he's running for governor. We need him. I'm telling you right now, if somebody like Chad Bianco can straighten out this state, it'll be the greatest place to live. And I really mean that. A lot of people knock California because of the politics and because of the economics here. It's tough for a lot of young people, no question about it. But a good governor and a good administration, of course they can straighten it out. Back in the day when Ronald Reagan was governor here, tremendous state. Everything was rolling. Really, really terrific. We need to bring that back. I am certainly supporting him. Look, Steve Hilton, who is another great Republican, they're kind of running together. Either one of them. I'm supporting Chad because he's just a great guy. Decent guy, very, very capable, loves the state of California. I know what he's going to do. He would be a blessing, I am telling you, for all of the people, and that's all we care about. You know, we want people to live properly, be able to enjoy their home life and their work life and everything else. That's what it's all about. And I know Chad Bianco can do that for us. So without any further delay, my very special guest, Chad Bianco. And before he comes on, please subscribe. We're trying to hit 2 million by my birthday on May 27th, and we're very close. So many people have been subscribing. Thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate it very much. All my loyal subscribers, you built this platform, no question. I appreciate that. You know that. And for those of you that, agree to come on, thank you for that too. 2 million is a huge accomplishment on YouTube. Trust me for that. 1 million is a huge one. 2 million, very, very big. So appreciate it. No further delay. My very, very special guest. It's an honor to be sitting alongside of him, Sheriff Chad Bianco. Well, Sheriff, it's great to have you here. Like I said, I had a little preview yesterday because we were in church and we heard you speak there, which was great. We have a mutual friend in Pastor Greg Laurie in Harvest, and I know you've been attending that for quite some time, and I have also. So
yes.
It's great to hear you. And, I think a lot of people don't understand really what the responsibilities are for a sheriff's office and a sheriff versus that of the police department.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm saying that, a lot of people have been asking me, well, what's the difference? So maybe you can explain that, because I know your responsibilities are actually larger.
Much more broad.
Yeah, more broad.
Yes. So the biggest difference between a sheriff and a chief of police is the sheriff is elected by the population of the entire county, and a chief of police is appointed by a political board. Mm-hmm. So it's either a city council or possibly the city manager. Sometimes it's both, a combination, but it can be very political. So they are, compared to a sheriff, I'm elected by everyone in my county. And so I can't be removed from office other than every 4 years. You can unelect me if you don't think I'm doing a good job. And that chief of police can be fired any second. So they seem to be much less political outwardly. They're sometimes very political inwardly because they're affected by politics. Whatever the politics of the city council wants, they have control over the chief of police on how they would, I don't want to say conduct investigations, but how they would, whether it's proactivity or no proactivity. Like around us, sometimes it's that the homeless are hands off. And for me, I just do what is best for public safety for the entire county. And without the fear of being removed if I make somebody angry.
Got it.
So then outside of that, the responsibilities are much more broad. So I'm responsible for courts in the county. I'm responsible for jails in the county for all of the inmate population. I'm responsible for all search and rescue in the county. I'm the coroner, the public administrator. So I have all of that wrapped in together. I have a much broader relationship with Indian tribes because Indian tribes are their own sovereign nation. So they're basically their own government. However, I'm their law enforcement. And so, they don't go through a city council or anything like that. I deal directly with tribal chairmen or women, depending on which tribe we have. And it's a much more personal, much more broad, much more responsible, I guess, position than an appointed chief.
And you have about 17 cities that I think that you have jurisdiction over.
Yes. So within our county, there are 17 cities that contract with us for law enforcement services. So they don't have their own police department. To be honest, it's a lot cheaper to contract with the sheriff because we spread costs out over everyone. And you don't have that original overhead. You don't have workers' comp issues, all of those things that go together with one independent police department. And so they will contract with us for services. So technically, I'm the chief of police of 17 cities, in addition to the sheriff of the entire county overall.
So then you also would have the day-to-day law enforcement in those 17 cities because there wouldn't be an independent police department.
Right. They have no independent police department. I am. So we, some places, and that's common for sheriffs. Los Angeles has more contracts than we do. I think they have like 21 or 22, but then we're second to them. And for me, 17, that's a lot. Los Angeles, you think they've got 21, but they're massive. That's a much bigger population base. 4 times the size of my county is Los Angeles. So for me to have 17, that's a lot. And it's an independent police department technically, but we don't call it a police department. So like Moreno Valley is our biggest city that we contract with, and we just call it the Moreno Valley Sheriff's Office. So even though it's me and it's a police agency, we want the uniformity so everyone's on the same page that we're all sheriff's deputies.
Got it. All right, people always ask me, Michael, you're Italian. Why Armenian wine? Let me tell you something. Armenia has been making wine for over 6,200 years. Before the French, before the Italians even before the pyramids. When I tasted the wine, I knew we had a hit. FranzeseWine.com. Try it yourself. You'll definitely understand. Let's get back to the video. And you have also Palm Desert and Rancho Mirage.
Yes, both of those cities, all of the cities out in that whole Coachella Valley. There's Desert Hot Springs, Cathedral City, Palm Springs, and Indio, and then all of the rest of them are mine.
And that's Riverside is one of the biggest counties in the country, right? One of the biggest sheriff's departments in the country.
Yes, we're the 4th largest in the country.
Wow.
Second in California. Los Angeles is bigger than us, and then across the country we're number 4.
And I'm assuming you have thousands of employees.
4,400.
4,400. Are they all sheriffs?
Yeah. No, we have. It's probably around the 3,000 to 3,200 mark, and then the rest of them are either classified staff or
administrative.
Yes. Yeah. Accountants. Those types of things that do the business end of it.
Got it. And you're in your second term now.
I'm in
correct?
my second term. I was elected in 2018, again in 2022. And this particular term is a little bit different. They're supposed to be 4-year terms, or they are.
Mhm.
But this term that I'm in, there was a law change about when my election would occur. And so it got moved to the presidential cycle instead of the governor cycle.
Mm.
And so my election now is not until 2028.
And is there a term limit on the sheriff?
No.
So you can stay in office
As long as
people
the
keep
as long as the
electing
county wants me, the residents of the county want me running law enforcement there, I can stay as long as they like me and want me.
you. And you've been with the sheriff's department, I understand, since the 90s.
Yes,
Is that correct?
30. I'm in my 33rd year.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been over 32 years.
So you're probably the most experienced and qualified person
Well,
in the office.
I think there are 3 people that have been there longer than me.
Wow. 30 years doing anything is an accomplishment, that's for sure.
Yeah, typically most people, once they hit that 30-year mark, that's their goal, and they end it at 30
That's
and they
it.
move on. Yeah.
All right. And I understand now that you've thrown your hat in the ring for the governorship here in California,
I have.
which I have to say is so good to hear, because I've been a very, very outspoken, very vocal about, the politics in this state, because I'm a transplant, but I'm here since 1985. I married a California girl, Orange County girl, and never went back to New York. And I love this state.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really the most beautiful state in the country, I believe. And I always tell people, because so many people say, Michael, how do you live in California? And I said, listen, if we ever got the politics and the economics straight in this state, there's no better place to live.
No.
We got the best weather in the world here in Southern California. So many things going for it. But you know what, Sheriff, it's just so sad what they've done to this state.
Yeah. We didn't know this, but now as you explain it, we're in the same boat. I came here in 1989 from another state, and I came here to truly make a life for myself in what everyone knew of California. If you're from out of state, is if you're going to make a life for yourself, make it in California.
Yes.
And so that's what I came here for. I found my California beauty queen. I married her. We raised our
So we have that
family
in
here.
common, yes.
And I don't want to leave, even though I grew up and I was 22 years old when I left that state. I left Utah and I came here. I'm a Californian. I absolutely love it here. I love everything about it. I love our mountains, our ski resorts, our beach, our oceans, our deserts. There's the weather here. I mean, we're talking the middle of February, and you got to dress
going on
down.
Back east today?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And here you have to dress down in the middle of the day because you're going to be too warm. So it is beautiful here. And I think what has happened, where I know you're vocal. I certainly have been a very, very, very vocal opponent of politics in California, particularly in public safety, but now more recently economically and everything else. I think that because California is the best state, especially the environment, I think that I didn't know what exactly it was, but the sunshine tax. Everyone refers to the sunshine tax, and I thought it was a real tax, but it's more of a thought process of what is it worth to you to stay in California? What is California really worth to you? And what I mean by that is, how much are you willing to pay and put up with for the beauty and what really is California? And I think that we've all found that out. We found out what our maximum was, and I think it was a couple years ago. And that's why people are being more vocal. People are finally standing up to what we know is just a horrific government public policy that is truly harming us.
And I've said this in the last election when Trump was elected. It seemed that California was really going red. It was only the coastal cities that were, again, voting blue. So do you think we have a real opportunity this time, Sheriff, to turn the tide?
I think we do, because I think the politics in California, the majority of the counties turned red, and we voted red, except for the Bay Area, except for Los Angeles, and like San Diego. So you have those 3 pockets of coastal area, and unfortunately, they're big population. And then I think what happened in the last election, if the the Democrat hatred for President Trump is so great, so emotionally consuming, that I think that even though everyone knew it was so bad here, they just couldn't bring themselves to vote for someone that they didn't like.
Mhm.
And I think that that's passed. This is not going to be that election. I'm not President Trump.
Mhm.
And so the Democrat Party is trying to even label me as him. I mean, they don't even refer to me as Sheriff Bianco or anything. It's just the Trump MAGA extremist sheriff. And so I think that overall in California, we're waking up to everything that's bad and then finally realizing that there hasn't been any decision in the past 30 years that's been a Republican decision or a conservative decision. And so everything that we look at California as being bad is completely the responsibility of Democrats. And for the last 14 years, them having complete control and nothing is getting better, things are actually getting worse. I think people, even Democrats, are saying, yeah, I think we're going in the wrong direction. This progressive socialism that we're really going to in California, I think the moderate Democrats are saying that, look, I don't believe it. I don't want to be a Republican, but I certainly can't support that either. And I think we're going to be a lot more red this election than what people think.
You know, Chef, how did they get away with when I listen to these things about, all of this money that was raised, taxpayers paid in to have a railway that not even 1 foot of track has been laid for? When you hear all of these things that are going, I heard too, $100 million was raised for the Palisades fire,
Mm-hmm.
and a person living there said, we haven't got 1 penny yet.
Yeah.
How do these things happen? How are they let go like that?
I think it's because of darkness. So no one knows. I mean, you'd be surprised at how many people in the places where I go and the groups that I'm talking to, of how many people don't know about the train to nowhere and about the money laundering going on with that nothing is happening. They had no idea. They weren't aware that it was. And they're either just learning about it, or some of them I informed them, giving my campaign speech. And I think we have just gotten to a point. I don't want to say that the media was involved, but they were certainly negligent in reporting. And I think that they should be overly critical of government. I don't think the media should be friends of government.
Mhm.
It should be overly critical of government to make sure that everything is transparent, to make sure that they're doing everything right. And I think I lend to that well, because that's what law enforcement is. People are overly critical of law enforcement. So as transparent as I am, I mean, we've got nothing to hide. If you want to ask something, ask, and I'll give you everything. I'll give you more than you want to know, because we want it all out there. We want people to know that we're trying to do the right thing. We certainly make mistakes, but we'll own our mistakes and we'll fix them to make sure they don't happen in the future. But we're not getting that with government. We don't get that with our city government, our county government, or our state government. It's like the media. It's almost like it's off limits to them, and they're not informing us of these bad rules or regulations or laws that are truly harming us. And I think it's changing. I think the pendulum is definitely coming back. There's a reporter in San Diego, can't remember her name, and there's a report, I can't remember either one of them, but Ashley Zavala is in Sacramento area, in the Bay Area, Sacramento, and they are doing the job of what I remember or what I believe that news should be. It's almost like the investigative reporting, Walter Cronkite type stuff. And they are actually doing that, and they're exposing all these things, but they're limited in their viewership. So I wish that all media would be doing that. And I think that should be their role, is to keep everything on the up and up.
Absolutely. They're supposed to be the watchdog of government.
Right.
And they're not acting that way. We know the mainstream media has certainly not acted that way, nationally and locally also. It's terrible. I've lived in Orange County. I've lived out here now since '85, but I've lived in Orange County for the last 13 years. And I've never felt safer in anywhere that I've been. I mean, you keep these communities very safe. And I always say, you can travel the west side of Orange County and not find a bad neighborhood.
Yeah.
Everything is beautifully manicured, well kept. And it's just a shame that we don't have a government that corresponds to that in a way,
Yeah.
and tries to make this whole state the same way.
I say that a lot. So the sheriff of Orange County and and myself, San Bernardino County, we work very, very close together to be very, very proactive in our approach to law enforcement. And we're lucky that even though we have some Democrat government officials, they're still conservative and they still know the value of keeping their communities safe. And so we never experienced the defunding of the police or any of those things. So we've been allowed, and because it's sheriffs and San Diego and San Bernardino both have contract cities, so they can influence rivers, they can influence their county the same way I do. And then the way we interact with each other is I think some agencies try to do it, but we overly try to do it. And we encourage our deputies to work back and forth, because the crime that's going on, the crime in Orange County isn't really done by people that live in Orange County. They're traveling in to do it, and they're probably traveling from my area. And the same thing, it goes back and forth, which is why we cooperate so much. And that's why we believe in Southern California, especially, that we, outside of the big city of LA, we don't have the things that they have, because we don't have the politics that are negatively really affecting it.
What motivated you to run for governor?
I think it was just seeing everything that was so broken, and then being in Sacramento fighting for public safety all of the time, and seeing that every other industry was fighting the same thing. We were all fighting the same common enemy, which was a legislature that just was not listening to anyone, and everyone is suffering. Public safety is suffering greatly because of bad decisions out of Sacramento. Our building industry is suffering greatly because of bad decisions out of Sacramento. Our business community is leaving the state because of bad decisions out of Sacramento. And as I watched all of the people signing up to be governor, to run for governor in this election, it's all the same names and the same faces of the people that put us here in this position to begin with. And I was like, no one else is doing it. It's going to be worse, the same or worse, if those people were just allowed to win. And there were other things in the peripheral with me. I got thrust into the public limelight because of COVID and my stance on COVID, not enforcing any of the rules and the regulations and the shutdowns and the mask orders and all of those things. And so I became known in the law enforcement world throughout the state. But then in 2023 and all through 2024, I was traveling the state to try and get Prop 36 passed. And so having that name recognition all over, it lent well to me jumping in this race, that people know who I am. It helps that I'm the sheriff, because everyone in every county, they all voted for their sheriff. They like the idea of their sheriff. And so that goes, I guess, psyche-wise, they respect sheriffs. And so then with me, with name recognition, they're like, oh yeah, that's that Riverside sheriff that stood up to the government. And so I think that's why we're so successful right now.
Well, that's great. And I think I'm really hoping that this messaging can get out there in a big way, because I speak to people all the time. People are infuriated. This is something, as a taxpayer, that not only bothers me, but so many other people. We have a $17 billion deficit now. And that's because of government irresponsibility.
Oh, yes.
Taxpayers didn't cause that. We didn't cause that. But their solution is to raise more taxes and to tax people again for the problems that they caused. This is a national issue, but here in California, to solve the deficit, they want to hit us with more taxes.
Yeah.
And this is always the Democrat way. And
it is.
I so agree with what you say. People out there today that are struggling to make a living, they're working their job, sometimes two jobs, putting food on the table. They don't have time to listen to the politics. They're not on social media. They're not watching the news every night. So they don't get the messaging. They don't understand. So they go to the voting booth, they see a D, and they just vote Democrat. They're not educated.
Yeah.
So my thing is, how do we get the messaging out so these people understand we need a change?
Yeah.
And these people in office now are just not competent to do it. It's going to be the same. I believe it's going to get a lot worse.
I do too. I think that right now we're in a good environment, because the news, even though I criticize the news a lot, they're starting to turn around, because the reporters are going out on crime scenes and the reporters are getting robbed. And so it's
Mm.
affecting every industry now. Crime is definitely, criminals are protected in California. And then we're hearing and learning of all of this corruption and the just absolute refusal to stop. And I think for the most part, people are good. They don't want to get taken advantage of.
Right.
They want, nobody is against paying taxes, but when you see your taxpayer money wasted or abused or stolen, then all of a sudden you get angry, and those things shouldn't happen. And I think that's really where we are, is people are just finally standing up and waking up to, we've been abused for a long time by a government that really is not looking out for us anymore. And it shouldn't be that difficult for the government to do that. You talk about money. I mean, we just look at our own personal finances. If you run out of money at the end of the month, you got
That's
to wait
it.
till next month. You don't get to call your boss or call your retirement account and say, "Hey, all right, I spent too much money, so give me more."
Right.
It just doesn't work that way. But somehow government thinks they work that way.
Yeah.
And I think there just has to be a huge reckoning of what government was supposed to be, how it's supposed to operate. And while we were all not paying attention, we were worried about our own lives. And I think we let government get way too off base, and we just need to bring them back on.
I agree. And I think if people really understand this, like, all this money that was raised to resolve the homeless situation, and nobody can answer as to why the homeless situation got worse.
Yeah.
With all the money that they raised and put aside for this, and it gets worse. I think if people really knew this and it penetrated, they would say, wait a second, how can we allow this to continue? And why are we not getting answers for all this? We don't get any answers. We have no idea where this money has gone, why it was wasted, why the situation isn't getting better. And they just seem to continue and go on and on and on. That's why my concern is the messaging.
Yeah.
Because normal people that work, when they hear this, they're going to get upset. And they're going to say, no, we need a change.
Yeah. That, I think, really, I don't want to say that we've done it and we were successful, but I think that we're on that path. They don't trust government anymore. I read it was an article, but then it had statistics about politicians, and 83% of people don't trust politicians.
Mhm.
83%. But we keep voting for the same ones over and over. So that it just blows me away. But I think that people are finally realizing that there is consequences to elections, and there's consequences for not paying attention. And how you mentioned before, where they just vote for the D. I've said before that if the only Democrat on the ballot was Charles Manson, he would be the governor of California. And because people
You're
just
right.
wouldn't even look at who they were voting for.
Yeah.
And that we vote for bright, shiny objects. We vote for millionaires and billionaires and movie stars and, personalities instead of character
Mhm.
and leadership ability. And I think that we suffered enough that people are finally coming around and they're going to pay attention. One of the things that I've come across in this election and in all this campaigning is there are so many people that are my age and even a little bit older that are coming to me and saying that they're voting for me, and this is going to be the first time they've ever voted.
Really?
And I think that that's really the problem of California. It's the same block of people voting every time, which is why it's the same 60, 40, 55, 45%. That's what we lose by every time. And the reality of all of our elections, we know, is that between 40 and 60% don't vote.
Mm.
And I think that people are finally standing up now and saying,
They don't think they can make a difference, so they don't bother.
that's what it was. They think that there's cheating. It's like, look, they cheat. They pick the whoever they want anyway. My vote doesn't count. My vote doesn't matter. And so it's easy to say, well, I'm just not even going to vote. I don't like either one of the candidates, so I'm not voting for either one. And I think that we may not like either one of the candidates, but you got to pick the best of the worst then, because you're still going to be stuck with one of those. And I'm hoping that that's where we are in this election. We know the pendulum's coming back. I hope it comes back far enough, fast enough for June and then into November.
Yeah, my concern too is, look, I've been knocked a lot on social media for being a Trump supporter.
Mm-hmm.
And what I try to tell people is, listen, I support Trump's policies.
Right.
I don't know Donald Trump. We don't go to dinner together. We're not friends. I've interviewed some of his family members, but it's his policies that I vote for,
Yeah.
that I like. You know, I'm hoping that there isn't a Donald Trump backlash because, Sheriff, I've never seen the amount of hatred towards a person that we witnessed with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, everybody's got their faults. We get that. Every politician has their faults, but the amount of vitriol and hatred towards this guy, and we just hope that it doesn't wear off on anybody that's a Republican because of him.
Yeah. And the sad part of it is just what you said. You don't even know him. And none of these people know him. They just know what they were told.
Yeah.
And then their emotions get the best of them. And if you're in an emotional state, you don't think rationally anymore. It's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just go all sideways. And you're exactly right where I hope that this election for the Democrats, they leave Trump out of it.
Yeah.
So we know that the Democrats that are currently running, everything they do mentions President Trump. And my goal for this entire campaign is going to control the conversation to say, he did absolutely nothing to harm us. That was all of your policies. Your policies made the cost of living too high, made the cost of gas too high, housing unaffordable, taxes too high, businesses leave to regulate because of regulation. Trump wasn't even here. So we're not going to talk about President Trump. We're going to talk about the failures of Democrats. And one thing that I say is that the Democrat agenda and the Democrat policies in California are indefensible. They have nothing that they can point to say, look what a good job we did, or look over here at this city or this town and how great we're doing, because there isn't one. And I think that we know that politics has a pendulum, and that every 20 years in California, they elect a Republican governor. And we're at that 20-year mark. And I think it's a little bit different, even more beneficial to us this time, because in 2025 or in 2005, it wasn't as bad as it was now. And we still elected a Republican governor. We recalled a Democrat and put a Republican in. And now there's not an incumbent. So the seat is really wide open. And so it's very, very much so about policy. It's about, are you going to do something different to make our lives better? Or are you going to continue with what's been happening for the last 20 years? And we see ourselves getting worse and worse. And I think that's what's going to be the eye-opening thing for this election. I would not have run if I thought I was going to lose. I'm very athletic, very competitive. I don't play volleyball because I'm not good at volleyball. I wouldn't win, so I don't even want to play. And if I didn't think that there would have been a chance of winning because of the overall environment, and then even what I had to offer, not just as Chad Bianco, I can offer the integrity, the leadership, the honesty, the transparency, but as the sheriff in a time when people are concerned about crime and they're also concerned about corruption, I don't think that there's going to be a better person, I'll just say that fits that whole mold to just say, oh yes, that's the perfect person. Doesn't necessarily have to be Chad Bianco. It's Sheriff Chad Bianco. And the last 32 years of what I've been doing, it fits what we're looking for.
No, I have to agree with that, Sheriff. I've been watching you and certainly heard you yesterday and was really impressed with what you had to say at Harvest. And I think that's so important now because I have to take Governor Newsom the guy gets up there and just about every word, and I'm just a normal guy watching him. I want to hear that he's saying good things because I care about the state. It's one thing, I have to digress a little bit. There's people out there that hate Donald Trump so much. They're hoping that he's in the Epstein files. They're hoping that he abused a young girl. I have 5 daughters. I have a wife that I love. I have granddaughters. I can't think that way. I don't want to hear that anybody abused a young girl. But this is the level that it's gotten to. When I hear a guy like Newsom, he's up there. He has nothing positive to offer. It's all Trump, 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 Trump. He's on his campaign mode for the White House. But everything that he says is a lie.
Right.
The guy just lies.
That's what bothers me.
And he doesn't even care.
Yeah.
He's on video and he's lying constantly. And I don't get it.
It's funny, personally, liars and thieves. For me, liars and thieves. It's like he's both. And it's even in the investigative world, investigating crimes and solving crimes. I respect people. Not their lifestyle or their choices or what they did to the victims, but I respect ones that own it and just say, yeah, I did it. And I chose this because. But the ones that lie about it and try and get out of it, and they're just there's with no character. Now you can still have character and break the law. You can still be an honorable person and break the law.
Yes.
It's the ones with no character, no integrity, no values, no morals, the ability to lie about everything. Psychologically, you're a danger to society. And I feel that every time I listen to Newsom talk, because I do live here and I do see everything that's going on. And what he's saying is just physically not true. And it really makes you wonder the real soul of a person that's able to really do that, to try and lie and cheat and convince somebody of something that's just not reality.
I know it, and I mean, he's the poster boy for this, as far as I'm concerned. But what's really troubled me, and coming from my past, I mean, you know where I was, Sheriff, at one time. But listen, I've turned my life around. I'm a believer in the Lord, and I try to operate with integrity. And what's bothering me so much today, the people in government, it's all their divisiveness, all their harmful rhetoric, attacking one another. The language that they use, it's all trickled down to people. We have more divisiveness in this country now because of leadership.
Right.
The people on the top, they're causing all of this.
Yes, because none of them are leaders.
You're right.
They were corrupt or greedy or immoral or unethical people that got put in a leadership position where they were able to manipulate that position for their own benefit.
No, you said it. And even sometimes with Trump, I try to tell him, Trump, not I tell him, but I try to say, I want to tell him, Trump, don't stoop to their level. Don't be the name calling and all of that. You're the president of all the people. Try to unite us.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm so supportive of you, because I feel that that's the type of person you are. You would be the governor for all the people. You would try to unite everyone. This is one state of California. We all benefit when leadership is doing their job and people understand that and see it. And that's what I'm hoping and praying for. I mean it.
Yeah. I think that's I truly, my job, even in law enforcement, I don't care who you voted for. I don't care what your religion is, where your background. It's, were you a good person or you a bad person? Were you the victim or were you the suspect? And then we go out there to try and make somebody's life better. Sometimes it's at the expense of the person that victimized that person, but it's making someone else's life better. And I think that this role as governor that's what I'm approaching it as. It's to make all of Californians' lives better, not just Republicans, not just Democrats, not just special interests, but everyone as a whole. There has to be somebody that cares about California as a whole and not an agenda. And that's truly what I'm doing it for. I mean, as much as, I'm a conservative Republican. I can never get away with that. I'm a registered Republican, but I don't want to win this for Republicans. Right. I want to win it for Californians. It's okay that we disagree on some things, but overall, we want our lives to be easier and less affected by government and less influenced by government. And we're more successful that way. And that's what I really want to just bring government back to the point where it's working for the people to make lives easier, instead of what it feels like is we're just all working harder and harder to make California government bigger.
Yeah, and we desperately need that type of leader. Let me ask you this. I speak to a lot of people, and I talk to them about the immigration issue and about California being a sanctuary state. I'm against that. I wouldn't want to see us as a sanctuary state because of what it means. Mm-hmm. I'm not against immigration, obviously, but, and I always say this, people are against ICE and everything. They're enforcing the laws that Congress put into effect.
Absolutely.
If Congress would do their job properly, we wouldn't have all of these issues. So again, it points back to leadership that's not doing their job. What is your position on California being a sanctuary state?
It has to go away. It is harming every single community that we have. The bad part of sanctuary state is we're lied to. We're always lied to. They called it the California Values Act. It isn't my values, because if you read that bill and what it did, all it did is prevent people who are in jail and prison, who are also in the country illegally. So not only did they come into the country illegally, they also victimize us in one way or another. The only thing that did is prevent them from being deported. That's it. It didn't protect an immigrant that came here illegally, that's out in the community somewhere. SB 54 does absolutely nothing to protect them. Nothing. It was only written to protect criminals who were in jail and prisons, to make sure we had to release them back into the community instead of deporting them. It absolutely has to go away. It has to go away. What they want us to believe is that somehow ICE and immigration enforcement just happened in 2025 when President Trump took over. It's been going on forever. I mean, he hasn't deported a fraction of the amount of people that Obama deported.
Right.
But we aren't talking about facts. It's just the emotion. I think the big difference is because of sanctuary state, immigration can't go into the jails to get these people anymore. So they know they're not in jail anymore, but they can also find out where their address was. And so they're going to those addresses or a place of work where their social security number is being used, and they're going there to find them so they can deport them. And the bad part of that is, if you go into a room of 10 people and they're looking for one person that has a deportation order, and the rest of the other 9 are also illegally or here illegally, they're not going to leave them there. They're going to take all 10. And that's why the numbers are skewed in, they'll say, they had no criminal convictions or no criminal arrests or anything like that. Well, they were still here illegally.
Right.
And there was never a King's X that once you got here illegally, that you were free from deportation. There was always going to be that fear because you're here illegally.
Right.
And we have to be okay with immigration. We have to have immigration if we're going to survive as a country, as much more so now than ever before, because our death rate is exceeding the birth rate. So if we don't bring more people in below us, there's more people dying off. Nobody's being born. We're not going to be able to function.
Right.
And so we do need a robust immigration system. And it's the politicians that promise it every election, but then they do nothing so they can promise it again the next election.
Right.
And it's that ethics and integrity and morals, really, lack of leadership that we see in our federal government. But sanctuary state has to go. Everybody that breaks our laws here needs to be deported. It's a very convoluted issue when you just talk about immigration, because I think that the progressive left's ability to make it about emotions has fired everybody up against Trump and against ICE, instead of all of the issues that have built up to this perfect storm of what we see today.
As governor, do you have the power to change that?
No. So that's a law. Legislators are going to have to change it. So it's basically me lobbying them to make sure we get a change. And to be honest, I take that back. There is one way. There's currently a lawsuit. I'm suing the state because sanctuary state is actually unconstitutional, because it forces me as the sheriff to either violate federal law or state law. And that in and of itself is unconstitutional. So we're suing the state as an unconstitutional law. And so as the governor, what I can do is stop the fighting of the lawsuit. So you stop the fighting of the lawsuit, then it's by default, it's unconstitutional, and we take it away. Or after I win, then we really have to work with our legislature to make sure we get it repealed.
Well, I've always said this. I don't believe that the Democrats, progressives, give a darn at all about immigrants.
They don't.
To me, it was very simple. And Biden just did it. Flood the people with immigrants. Flood them, let them come into the United States. Don't give them a voter ID. Tell them we're the ones that let you here, and let them vote and turn every state blue.
Right.
That was the plan from the beginning. It wasn't a humanitarian thing. They don't care about these immigrants. They don't care about their own citizens because we had to pay the tab for these people.
Yes.
When they came in, it was just a farce.
Of all of you talk about humanitarian, the government, Biden, invited everyone in. And then our taxpayer money was used in Mexico and South America to funnel all of these people up in here. The vast majority, I can't say all, but the vast majority of the women that were coming up here trying to get in here were raped. On the way, they were raped. The government, our own taxpayer money, was our own NGOs and nonprofits were down in South America giving every single woman and child, female child, a bag that had condoms in it.
Really?
Because they knew they were going to get raped, and they were giving a condom so they could give that to their rapist. There is no humanity. There was no humanity in this. They were being robbed. They were being beaten. They were being raped. Many of them murdered. There was no humanity. On the way here. There was no humanity. And then when they come here, where are the 350,000 kids? Where's that humanity? Where is that? We know in the law enforcement world, we know that about 140,000 have been recovered by President Trump's DOJ and FBI and the immigration enforcement that's looking for them, FBI predominantly. So we know we recovered about 140,000. Why hasn't the media reported that? We're still missing 160,000 or more, but they haven't reported that we've actually been finding them in prostitution, in forced prostitution, in forced labor. It's that the liberals that brought them here don't care what happened to them, because you're exactly right. It was about bringing them here, offering them free things to keep them here, and then giving them the ability to vote by just giving them a driver's license. There's no check to get a driver's license or ID in California. And then so you can have that. Even if they check your ID, you can get one easily. Right. But when you vote, you don't have to show that. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. It takes someone with probably an elementary school education to be able to see that this was on purpose and what the purpose was. And it's not humane. It's inhumane, it's unethical, it's immoral, and it's not what a government should be.
Gosh, I think if people hear this, they'll be as disgusted with it as I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, I never knew that. But I mean, if people hear this, nobody can go along with that.
Yeah.
It's inhumane. It's evil.
Yes.
It's actually evil.
It is very evil, because there was a political goal that they had in mind, and they didn't care the consequences along the way of the people of how they were going to achieve their goal. They were just pawns in achieving their goal. And there was the homeless issue. The homeless issue is about taking as much money as you can, taxpayer money, giving it to people, your friends and everything else, and then knowing that a portion of that money is coming back into the election cycle to keep you elected. We know for a fact that that's what happens. And 50 square blocks in downtown Los Angeles of people living on the street, dying, rotting in their own skin, living in sleeping bags. Some of them aren't even in tents. They're just in blankets on the sidewalk. And we call that humane. There's nothing humane about it. There is billions, hundreds of billions of homeless issue dollars that have been absolutely squandered and wasted. And every single year, the homeless numbers increase.
And isn't there any way to identify this and bring it out so that people really know what's going on here?
There is. We have, the federal government is going to come in and find it now. And how they're going to find it is the federal government issues federal grants or federal taxpayer money to come into certain ones of these programs. So now they're coming in to investigate where that money went, and they're going to find all of the fraud. What should be happening is our own attorney general should have been policing it. The attorney general should have been finding all this fraud. Mm-hmm. The problem with our attorney general is, from my line of work in law enforcement, he is an embarrassment to law enforcement. He is the highest law enforcement official in the state. He's put in that position as an elected official, and he is an embarrassment. He has done nothing to find this fraud and abuse. The reports of the fraud and abuse he doesn't investigate. There was fraud and abuse reports in Los Angeles that the sheriff had that turned, this is probably 4 or 5 years ago, turned it over to DOJ. DOJ actually came in to take the investigation over. So they willingly gave them all the information to investigate. And then DOJ just sat on it until the statute of limitations was over and then said, oh, we're too late. But it was purposeful. They're purposefully covering up for the political system that is in place that is abusing our money.
Well, Sheriff, if we don't get a hold on this, if somebody like yourself is not elected, what's the extent of this corruption? I mean, it seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. And, they always talk about nobody's above the law, but they're all above the law.
Yeah.
They don't go after
they
one
say
another.
That talking about other people.
Yes.
But not them.
Right.
Yeah, no, you can't break the law, but don't look at me, and we're not gonna look this way. We're only looking that way.
Well, the funny thing is when they say, Trump thinks he's above the law. Trump has been indicted more than anybody I know. The guy was definitely not above the law. They went after him with everything they could.
Yeah.
Between impeachments and indictments and civil suits and everything else, but none of them ever go down.
Right. And the ironic thing for me is with all of these recent protests that are coming up, and they call it No Kings protest. What does Gavin Newsom think he is in this state? I mean, he is an absolute dictator that does whatever he wants. We vote on things and he just says, I don't care. We're not doing that. We vote on things to make it. And he says, I refuse to do it. There's so many things that he disregards everything about our Constitution, about our state laws, unless somehow he can use it for his own benefit. But the ones that go against his benefit, he completely disregards them. And I honestly, I just think we're all finished with it. And to your question about what's going to happen, I don't even want to look at what's going to happen, because I watched this past weekend the Democrat convention in San Francisco, where they tried to nominate who they wanted to be their next person. And all of the policies that they're preaching and how they're going to make it worse. They're doubling down on all the things that are harming us. They want more regulations on business. They want more green that doesn't work. They want more environmental regulations that are forcing businesses out of the state. Everything, the cap and trade scam, everything, tax the trillionaires. Well, the billionaires are just leaving.
They're leaving.
So I don't understand. I don't understand the short-sighted thought process that they have, that they come up with an idea, but don't have the ability to look at what the consequence is going to be. So in the end, when they're raising all of these taxes and spending all of this money, eventually the rich people can afford to leave.
Mm-hmm.
The people that can't are going to have to be paying that from what they have, and they can't afford it now anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So by asking what's going to happen, I'm afraid to think of what's going to happen. It's a shame that we're in this position.
We could actually see a collapse of this state.
We could,
if they stay in power.
They like touting that we're the greatest economy, how big our economy is. But we're only that big because we're 40 million people.
Yeah.
That's why we're that big. And we have an industry, our ag industry and our tech industry, that is really, really trying to do the best they possibly can, even with the restrictions of government. We could be way better, way bigger than we are if government wasn't restricting it. And I think that mentality is really what's hurting us, because they just, oh, look how big we are. Now we don't have to look at the failures, that we're not doing anything to make us better or our lives better or our people's lives better. And I think that is why I think the tide is changing so fast, because there's just too many people affected. I mean, it used to not affect the rich. So the rich didn't care. They'd keep giving all their money to the people that they thought were going to help them in their own personal affairs. And the poor didn't care because they're getting free stuff.
Yeah.
And the problem right now is the poor are affected, the middle class is affected, and the rich are affected. There's not one industry, there's not one demographic in California that isn't negatively affected because of bad policies in California government.
Let me ask you this. What could their possible mentality have been by being light on crime, by passing a law that you can go in and steal $950 worth of merchandise from a store and really not get prosecuted for it? maybe you could explain to me, because I can't get it. What do they see the benefit to them is of a policy like that?
This is my belief is it is the final push to socialism.
Mm.
So we saw it even separate from all of these crimes, and it all goes together where you have to create a hatred for independent law enforcement. So law enforcement as a whole. And in America, we have local police, we have county sheriffs, we have state police, we have a lot of independent law enforcement. In order to have socialism, you have to have one. State police, you have to have just one police that controls everything, and that's controlled by the leader, which would be the governor. In 2020, we learned that the absolute hatred for sheriffs, because we're all elected and we're not controlled. He can't control me. He can't force me to do something. He can't make me. He can't bribe me. He can't do anything if I'm doing what's right. And they learned that that was all throughout the state. So in the process of, and so then you have that aspect. So now they're attacking sheriffs, trying to get us appointed instead of elected. They're trying to change the Constitution for that. But the problem with crime is you make it so bad to where people are just absolutely miserable. And then the state comes in and says, your local law enforcement has failed you. They're not capable. So we're going to come in and make you safe. And then they come in to save the day, and you thank them and tell them how great they are. And then you believe that you really did have a failed law enforcement. But the reality was they were making all of these laws and creating this environment that protected law enforcement from protecting the community. And I think it's just all backfiring. I think it looked good on paper. It was a good plan, but you can't implement a plan when you have, especially the freedom in America for everyone to choose whatever they want. And I think they were playing checkers, not chess. And I think that they overplayed their hand too soon. It wasn't ready for that whole push to socialism. And I think it's backfiring on them. But it wasn't one thing. It was a multitude of things. You have to force people to not be able to afford homes. I mean, the American dream is to own your own home and your family and everything else. And California has made it to where that's almost impossible, especially for the younger kids coming up. They can't afford $1 million home on a $20 an hour wage. It's just impossible. But you can live in the government housing. You can, when an entire city burns down and then you force them to build just apartment buildings, then you can force everybody to live in the apartment building and then force where they shop, force where they work, force where they exercise, and then all of a sudden you have a socialistic government. And I don't want to be that conspiracy theory, but I'm in my world, you look at it and you try and find, well, what's the answer? And when nothing makes sense, you've got to look at, well, maybe it's purposeful then, because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense why a government that controls everything, that can truly do anything they want with a Democrat Assembly, a Democrat Senate, and a Democrat governor. They could do anything they want. Why are they not doing something to eliminate the cost of living or reduce the cost of living? Because we know they could. If they would reduce the regulations that are driving it up, if they would reduce the taxes that are driving it up, our lives would be better here. And they're purposely not doing it. So it has to be on purpose.
You're right. So this is the whole plan to undermine law enforcement, so that they can stay in control and actually get more power over people.
And law enforcement is just one aspect of it. When you look at every other industry, it's all the same. Our education industry is failing because they're indoctrinating students to believe what the government wants them to believe. Not about history, not about free thinking, not about questioning anything. It's just tell you what to believe, and it's what the government wants you to believe. So the education system is there. Law enforcement, we talked about that already. The building industry, there it is. The farming industry, take away all their water. Now they can't grow food. They can't do it for themselves. So we'll get it from another country, and then we'll tell you what you can eat. It's all of those things coming together, that it's all for the same agenda.
I heard the other day, bringing up Newsom again. He had the nerve. I was sitting there and I couldn't believe what he was saying. He was blaming President Trump and saying, It's because of President Trump that 30-year-olds can't afford a house and can't in this state
Yeah.
where he's the biggest offender of that.
Oh,
you know?
yes.
But he sits there with a straight face and he takes no responsibility for anything. He just lies and puts everything off on somebody else. The guy is
Yeah.
something's mentally wrong with him.
Denise,
Something's wrong.
my wife, she warns me all the time. You can't talk like that. You can't be labeled as a conspiracy theorist. And I have to say that it isn't me coming up with this. There is a plan, a book that communism taking over America, they've laid it out. And they're doing it.
Yeah.
It's right there in the book. All you have to do is look in the book and see where we are in their plan. And then it's like, oh, they did this already, this already, this already, this already, and this is what's coming next. And law enforcement was one of them. Medical insurance was another one. The medical industry, the school, churches, taking churches out, taking the Bible out, pitting people against each other, using race to divide.
Yeah.
Everything that's listed out in that book, they are doing. So that's not Chad Bianco's conspiracy theory. It's just me pointing out, hey, I read the book, and you all should read it too, because they're doing it.
No, I agree. You know, I would say this, though. If we can if what you're saying is true, and I hope it's trending that way, that the media will finally start reporting things properly, that's the messaging that we need.
Yeah.
We need the media behind us on this. Just tell the truth. Tell the truth.
I'll tell you two things that point to me why I really, really think that things are going a different direction. Because of the campaigning, I have to pay attention to all social media. I have to pay attention to all the news, who's saying what all throughout the state. And there's two things really that stand out that's happening right now. One was the debate that we recently had, where you have one Republican against all of the Democrats. And in a statewide poll of who was watching the debate, 60-something% said that the one Republican won the debate. Well, he actually did a horrible job in the debate, but his policies were sticking up for us. It's like, no, California is broken. We have to change all of these things. We have to lower gas, lower cost of living. He's saying that what we all want. And the Democrats were saying, they were doubling down. They were saying Newsom's done a good job and they're going to continue. And all of the people watching were like, no, we're not into that. So 60-something% said that the Republican won the debate. And then several weeks later, there was a news station in Kern County. Kern County is probably, it's a very good microcosm of California, because it's a big immigrant community. It's a big farming community. It has big business. It has tech. It has oil. There's lots of Democrats, lots of Republicans. I actually even think it's a little bit more Democrat than it is Republican. But the news station one night said they were talking about politics and the election coming up. And they listed like the top, I don't remember how many there were, maybe 8, the top 8 people that who are you going to vote for governor? And 64% said me with all of those people. And then the other Republican was at 19% or 20%. So when you look at that, there was only 2 Republicans, the rest were Democrats. So that entire county, and it was a massive poll. It was just call in and tell us who you think, or punch in on the screen. And so 85% of the entire county said Republican.
Wow.
And I think that with that number in the debate, and with that of everybody watching the news, I don't think it's going to be that big on the election. But I think we're all just finally turning around, Democrats and Republicans, and saying, I'm not going to vote party line this time, because party line is hurting us, and we got to vote for the person that we think is going to win, and the person that we think is going to do a better job of reversing this. And we gotta do everything we can to make sure that happens.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. Let me ask you this, Sheriff. What would you do when you finally do take office? What do you think the first steps are to try to get California back on track?
The first steps have to be removing all of the regulation that's harming us. And the good part for me going into that office is regulations can just be removed. You can suspend regulations with executive order. You can suspend boards. You can, anything that's not a law, the governor has control over. So you can make those executive decisions, executive orders to remove or to add, whatever the case may be, as long as it's not law.
Right.
So the majority of the harm that's coming to California is regulation. So we can remove all of the regulation from businesses, from our farming community, from our
Huge.
building community, from everything. You eliminate from the building community, and now these builders can finally go build homes.
Right.
They're not building homes now because it takes so long because of regulation and restrictions, and then it costs them so much that we can't afford the house now.
Mhm.
So it's not that they don't want to build homes. They all want to build homes. It's that, I mean, we have a shortage of homes.
Right.
As soon as the regulations are gone where they know they're going to be able to make money, not only are they going to build tons of homes, the price is going to come down. And it's the whole supply and demand thing. And it's all regulation. So you remove all the regulation from the oil industry. We drill our own oil, we use our own oil,
Mhm.
and then that brings the price of gas down. The money generated from using our own oil funds state government. So now we don't need more taxes. We can eliminate taxes. It's not going to be easy. It's definitely going to be fun.
Well, I can tell you, I opened a restaurant back in 2021 that was a restaurant already. And all I did was put in a pizza oven and change the counter. And it took me
Yeah.
a year to open that place up. Every time they would come in with a little change, and I had to give them a whole set of new plans. Going back to the architect, he's got to draw up new plans, more money. It took a year just on a counter change and adding an oven.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Our state is not business friendly.
Not at all. Not at all.
And we can change that very easy. Very easy. We just remove the restrictions, the regulations, the bureaucratic red tape. Those are all government imposed. Those are not laws. They're just government imposed restrictions and regulations, and we just take them away.
Well, listen, Sheriff, I'm a big supporter, and I'm going to do my best.
Thank you.
Everybody's going to hear about it. And, what else can we do? What do you think we as citizens can do, aside from obviously voting, but to get the word out? That's the most important thing.
It is. We have to start talking about this through decades. I mean, our parents told us the two things you don't talk about are politics and religion.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the two things we should have been talking about. And we need to get back with that. We need to start voting our values. We need to start voting for leadership ability. And then we also, you have to vote. That's the biggest issue in California is we have to start talking about politics to make sure people vote. Register to vote. Vote for the first time. The only vote that doesn't matter is one that's not made.
Mm-hmm.
That one definitely doesn't matter. And if we can get 80, 90%, I'd like 100% voter turnout. This would be a landslide victory. And we have to realize that even though our friends are telling us they vote, 60% of our friends don't vote.
They don't.
And so we have to just keep talking to them and pressuring them and say, make sure you do. And I'm not a fan of mail-in ballots. The mail-in ballots are there for cheating, but we have to take advantage of them. So when you get your ballot, fill it out, mail it back in, track it so you know they got it and they counted it, and then start calling all your friends and family and make sure that they did. Did you vote yet? Let me come pick it up. I'll deliver it for you. You can do that. It's within the law, and we can take advantage of it. So I think if we are able to start talking about it more, get people more involved, saying that this is the time you have to register and vote, and you have to make sure you vote, I think we're going to be very, very successful, especially the Christian. The Second Amendment, I'm a huge Second Amendment supporter. There's 10 million gun owners in California, and 8 million of them don't vote.
Really?
60% of the people that go to church don't vote. So if we would be voting our Christian values, our morals, and our ethics and integrity, it's a landslide. It really is. There wouldn't even be a question. There'd be no such thing as a red or a blue state. There would be an ethically moral leadership state instead of politics.
Are you concerned about voter fraud at all?
A little bit. So we can't say that there's not fraud. We know there's fraud. I actually, week before last, time flies with me, but a week before last, we actually had to serve search warrants on our register of voters to seize all of the ballots from the 2025 election because there's a law that says they are mandated to destroy them within 6 months. or at 6 months.
Hmm.
Why would you want to destroy records of an election
Yeah.
if you weren't cheating? So in some investigations that we were doing, we found a massive 45,000 vote discrepancy.
Okay.
And we don't know where it came from. So we were able to convince a judge to get warrants, and we've seized everything.
Yeah.
So we know there is fraud. But I will tell you this with President Trump. President Trump didn't win because Democrats didn't cheat. They did everything they could to cheat, to vote for dead people, to vote illegally, and all of those things. But he won because more people in history came out and voted. And so they did what he told us to do, make it too big to rig. And we can do that here. We have to make it too big to rig. We need 80, 90% voter turnout. 100% would be amazing. And then we truly get the will of California. And I know the will of California is not the direction that California government is going right now. And it's going to be a landslide.
Well, listen, from your lips, as they say, to God's ears, I really hope so. And I'm feeling very confident after speaking with you, Chef. I really mean that. You're a person of integrity, a man of integrity, and you got my vote.
Very good. I appreciate that.
And you got the support of everybody that's supporting me. I can tell you that because I've had a lot of conversation about this, and our family's been talking about it, and we're excited.
Thank you.
Really
I appreciate it. We're gonna save our state.
Well, hey, listen, we're looking forward to that, and we're looking towards you to that. And like I said, we're going to support you all the way.
You cannot think that your vote doesn't count here in California. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I have so many Christian friends who's like, why am I going to bother? It's not going to make a difference. How many, if they would go out and vote, it would make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Well, that's the messaging. That's what we're going to keep pounding
Yes,
away at.
you
The
have
people
to
need to
vote.
vote.
We all have to be vocal.
Because no vote is a vote.
Yes.
Yeah. In
Just
the
in
wrong
the wrong
direction.
direction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen.
All right, we're going to do it.
Very good. Thank you.
Sheriff, thank you. All right, my friends, there you have it. Listen, we need this man. We need somebody with integrity. We need somebody with a good heart. We need somebody with knowledge. We need somebody that understands law enforcement, communities, people, what it needs to make California thrive again. You see what's happening here. People are leaving. They're overtaxing us. We have the highest tax in the country. Gas tax, personal income tax, you name it. They're driving people out of this state. And we need somebody with sanity and know-how and a good heart and just the understanding of how to operate this state. It's like the fourth biggest economy in the world. We need somebody capable, and Chad Bianco, he's the guy. There's no question about it. And like I said, Steve Hilton, another great guy, no question. I'm putting my, my faith in these two people. I'd love to see Chad do it because I know what he'll bring to this state. And like I said, we need it desperately. That's it, my friends. How do I always leave you? Same way. Be safe. You hear what's going on. Don't have to emphasize it again. Be healthy. Of course, I'm getting peptides today. Let's see what happens. I'm going to start using them. Anti-aging, they say. Everybody's talking peptides. So I'll be the guinea pig, at least for all of my viewers, and let you know. If you're using it already, let me know. Let me know the results. If you're over 70, especially, I'm going to be 75. Can't believe it, but it's better than the alternative, not getting there. Be safe. Be healthy. God bless each and every one of you. Families, friends, neighborhoods, communities. God bless America, and God bless the entire world. Yes, I'll see you next time. Take care.